stalling for my broke-ass laptop. Anyways, I'm here to talk about the Hackerboat. Some of you who were here at the last Toorcamp in 2014 and stayed fairly late on Sunday will remember that we tried to launch it and promptly rolled it over. We've gotten better at it since then, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the history that got us to that point and what we've been up to in the 2 years since then. So I'm going to start with the prehistory, which is in early 2011, Eric Johansson, who some of you certainly know, proposed that Hackerboat Labs build an autonomous boat to sail around the world. A number of members of the Hackerboat, including some who are here, got working on this. Unfortunately, it pretty quickly devolved into a talking shop about, well, this would be really cool to do, and let's think of lots of cool ideas about how to do it and not actually build anything. So since that was lame, we let it drop for a while. In early 2014, so about 3 years later, I thought it would be really cool to, actually build an autonomous boat and bring it out to Toorcamp 2014. And instead of let's just build an around-the-world boat from scratch, let's build, let's start with, something a little more doable. Some boats that we might be able to just take around the Sound or out off the Washington coast, and just play around and see what it was like. So at that first meeting, I went on Craigslist and purchased the least expensive two-person fiberglass kayak I could find in the Seattle area. And when we got it, this is actually after we cleaned it up a bunch. And for some reason, it's trying to auto-advance there. Here's us doing the motor mount. Here's actually Eric and Jenny working on it once we had the hatches done. And then you can see that we have the solar panel mounts. And here's about what the whole boat looked like when we were getting it ready to bring out to Toorcamp. And there's another cool picture of it, again, when we were about ready to bring it out to Toorcamp. So, the boat, it's solar electric propulsion. We didn't actually bring the solar panels this weekend because we looked at the weather report when we were loading the truck up on Tuesday and saw that there was going to be a lot of clouds, and solar panels in their frame are kind of heavy. Miles Connolly, who I think I saw here earlier, was kind enough to donate some batteries and some solar panels for the effort. We got a trolling motor from Cabela's for $100, and then just off-the-shelf waterproof servo. Basically, all stuff we could scrounge or buy really cheap. The control system, which obviously wants to be part of what we want to build for a around-the-world boat, we chose a BeagleBone for all the high-level navigation. The reason we went with the BeagleBone rather than a Raspberry or some of the other Linux boards is because it's faster, uses less power actually than the Raspberry Pi. It's got plenty of memory, and it's got a lot of GPIO. We also decided to have an Arduino to handle all the low-level stuff, and part of the reason for this split was we figured that we could turn the BeagleBone off for 15 minutes at a time and save a whole bunch of power and have the much lower power Arduino make all the steering and throttle decisions and everything like that. Our communications for the original boat, and in fact for our boat today, is a 900 megahertz Ethernet bridge for ship to shore. So you could just plug it into a laptop and talk to the boat. On board, we have a local Wi-Fi network for the various boxes on the boat to talk to each other. And the reason that we did it this way is because, first of all, Ethernet dongles are a lot cheaper than waterproof data connectors by about an order of magnitude now. And it also meant that any other sensors or any other devices that we wanted to add to the boat, we just had to tell them, what the SSID and what the password is, and they're on the network, right? So it's plug-in power, turn it on, and there's your integration problem. So this is actually us on the way out to Toorcamp 2014, and this is us trying to launch into the surf. Now, the boat did have a weighted keel at this point, and we left it off because the beach at Hobuck Bay is very shallow, And we really didn't want to have to carry the boat on our shoulders, for 100 feet out into the water. So we left the keel off. And there was a fair amount of surf, compared to the size of the boat and compared to, how tall I am that day. So we got very wet. And unfortunately, I don't have any pictures of it upside down. Well, I'm not sure that that's entirely unfortunate. But yeah, we did roll it over because it was not ballasted enough. It was pretty top heavy with all the solar panels on. So this is us bringing it back. My timer isn't going, so I have no idea how much time I actually have left. Okay. Hey, if I still have 20 minutes left, that's great. So, a couple of things that we learned from the from that rollover. One thing is that the batteries shifted pretty much as soon as it started to tip, and it's probably that more than the lack of ballast that actually rolled it over, because suddenly our center of gravity was no longer in the center of the boat. Our original radio mast was an aluminum tube, and I'm not sure who grabbed it to actually pull the boat back over, and it ended up pretty badly bent. So we made a new mast. We added external start and stop buttons so that we could, the actual crew handling the boat had an independent way to enable the motor, and also an emergency stop, so that, hey, the boat's not doing what it should be. We need to stop it right now. So now there's a great big red button. We also added a warning horn to tell the crew that's handling it that the boat's ready to turn the motor on now. So you probably need to clear the prop. It's not that anyone got hurt on the first time, but the possibility was clearly there. We also added external status lights, again for the launch crew to have a closer read on what the boat's actually about to do. The other thing is that the hatches kind of slid around and let water into the boat during the rollover. So we added some retention pins to them so they don't turn around so much. So here, next set of slides I have is the inside of the boat, since most of the changes we made were at the inside of the boat. Here, this one you can see the warning horn. It's a $10 thing from Harbor Freight, keeping with the Hackerboat theme, and then a really solid battery mount that will hold the battery in place even if we roll the boat all the way over. The battery's not going to shift. This is the forward compartment. In the aft compartment, you can see the motor drive box on one side. You can also see our bilge pump in there, which didn't get much use during the rollover because it didn't work when the boat was upside down. And you can also see the after battery mount, which is the same kind of thing. It's just something we bought for retaining a great big battery in place. And this is also the aft compartment, and you can see the radio box and a very fancy ammo box to keep it out of the water. And so the button switches that we bought for the stop and go didn't have appropriate covers, so we made them. Just cast them out of colored acrylic stuff. And you can see the boat after some of the whole boat after some of those modifications. And it took us a while, but last fall we got it back in the water, and that looks like Wim and I out at Duwamish Head putting it back in the water, and more putting it back in the water. We had some wheeled dollies, but it turned out that the boat ramp had these really deep sort of concrete striations that I'm sure are great if you're backing a boat down in your truck. If you're trying to move a boat down the ramp on furniture dollies, they mean that you're picking it up. And we got it back in the water. And the nice thing about getting it back in the water after that is it's totally stable. It doesn't leak. We didn't try with any waves. We're just in Elliott Bay, Seattle Harbor. And it was a pretty calm day. Now, the big takeaway from this was that the software that we had was actually a big problem. Our original software was we figured we could use Q ground control because it's under active development, right? And lots of people are using it for quadcopters. And use a protocol called Mavlink for the actual communications. Now, Mavlink is awful. It's really bad. The reason those take down a drone with this with this antenna and some software work is basically they're spoofing Mavlink to tell the quadcopter to shut off. And Mavlink has no security whatsoever. It's pretty much what you'd get if you asked a reasonably bright high school student to design a protocol for you. It's just not good. Q ground control has a lot of problems. It's somewhat difficult to configure and to customize. It's also very crash prone, at least for something like us, where our communications aren't always solid. So, we might drop out for a little bit. Sometimes that crashes Q ground control, and it's got a lot of other reasons it likes to crash. Basically, it's a terrible piece of software. And if anyone is in the audience who helped develop it and is offended, good, you deserve it. So we talked about what to replace it with, right? And we said that that at least an interesting route to explore was to build a REST interface. And so there are a few good reasons for that. First of all, it passes seamlessly through most networks. And since we're planning to go out on probably a satellite communications link, having a control protocol that we don't have to fiddle with that, we can just send the packets and it'll work, is a nice thing. The latency problems, on a boat, nothing happens faster than half a second or so, even if you wanted to. So if the packet takes 200 milliseconds to get there, that's fine. The other nice thing is sort of long term, there's a lot of experience with actually securing REST interfaces and web stuff, and a lot of tools for that, and a lot of people here are pretty good at that. So we figured that was a good place to go long term. And we've been working on that. We also decided that we were going to take the boat to Maker Faire Bay Area last month. And since you could see from the pictures that I've already shown, it didn't look so good. We decided that we really needed to paint it. Unfortunately, it ended up sucking a lot of time, but it looks kind of pretty, so I want to show some pictures of that. Here you can see after we'd filled it all in and primed it. This paint said it was bright orange. In the can, it looks a little bit more like ketchup, like dilute ketchup. But it's not bad looking. And you can see here also the length of the boat after we painted it. One problem we had the last time it was in the water was when it got more than 100 or so feet away, it became really hard to tell which direction it was going. Right? So Alex, who's over there filming, was up on a high point trying to observe and tell Jeremy, who's over here and who was driving the boat, which direction it was going. And as a result, they kept talking past each other, which was not a good thing. So we added a diode stripe to the front of it so that we could tell which direction it was going.
Yay, running lights.
No, not running lights. Oh. Just a nice black stripe. The simplest possible thing. Visible all the time. So, and this is actually us loading, I think this is loading the boat to come up here, because we've already stenciled the name on. Now, this boat, which we now that we're going to be building other boats, needs its own name, is we call the TSV Disputed Right of Way, which of course is a culture reference, and it's also a reference to one of the things that we spent a whole lot of time talking about without much resolution, which is for the purposes of right of way, what kind of boat is an autonomous boat? We don't have an answer. The other thing that we've been talking about for the future boats is solar electric has some pretty serious limits, especially if you're going out in the open ocean. And so the future of our propulsion is going to be wing sails. So, and I actually have a couple of wing sails down by the boat, and anyone who has more questions about that can come down and I'll show you all about how it works. The idea about self-tending wing sails is that they're free to rotate, and they just have like a little tail on the that rotates with the wing and sets the angle of attack, which means how much force you're getting and in which direction it's going. The concept that I'm looking at for our future boats is to have two wing sails, so we don't need a rudder, right? We just have two big wing sails with little tiny actuators, many feet out of the water. Hopefully that'll be a little less likely to foul and a little less likely to break. When I've read up on other, transoceanic autonomous boats, that seems to be a pretty common theme. That something gets tangled around the keel or something breaks the rudder, and then they're done. The other thing is that if you look at a map of the whole world, the way around it doesn't mean you have to somehow teach an autonomous boat to navigate a canal. You get to go around this part, through the Southern Ocean. And there's a lot of wind in the Southern Ocean and not much sun. And who here was on World Tour? Anyone? So I'm sure you're very familiar with what I'm talking about. That a lot of wind, not very much sun. So for that, we're going to use what's actually there. And next set of pictures is me actually putting together our sail test boat, which unfortunately I haven't gotten in the water yet. Probably sometime in the next month or so. So here's me with the first wing all clamped up. I think that might be every spring clamp I own in that picture. And then you can see I have wire cut foam pieces that actually fit into the wooden frame to form the airfoil. And then, since I had paint left over from painting the rest of the boat, here's the hull for the sailboat. And then it all assembled down at Maker Faire. Again, I have the boat down front if anyone wants to come ask questions about that. According to my own clock, I have about a minute or so left. So, got a couple more things to say. So, next steps. First of all, we're going to put the solar electric boat in the water a bunch more for software testing, because since we aren't tied to having enough wind, we can probably put it in the water more often. Next thing after that is to build better sails for the sailing Pathfinder. The current set of sails was also a Pathfinder for my ability to make a decent airfoil. After that, the next boat we build after that, we want to build a 4-meter long autonomous sailboat, and that's the right size to take the World's Robotic Sailing Championships and try the Micro Transat, which is an autonomous boat race across the Atlantic. It's been going on for 6 years, and as far as I know, no boats have yet reached the starting line. Maybe we'll be the first to start. Okay, so a couple more things, and that would also be a good size for letting out on its own around Puget Sound, right? Beyond that, I think probably our circumnavigator wants to be about a 7-meter boat, and that's also a good size for doing a variety of marine sensing tasks, which we've been talking about internally. So, this is our various links. We have we post on the Hackerbot Labs blog. We also have a hackaday.io site, sort of to corral information. We also have it on GitHub, and so the two big things we need are programming help. For our software development, the worst case scenario is not a server crash, it's dude, where's my boat? So we need more people, help write unit tests, help write various software pieces and all that. The other thing we need is, this actually isn't really all that cheap. So we're getting a little to the end of what we can actually fund out of our own pockets. So if you think this is cool, give us money. And I also want to pull up some of the people who've been working on this. Jeremy, who's down here. No, come up here. I'm not going to answer all the questions. Wim, who I know I saw somewhere here. Come on, Wim. And Alex, who I'm not going to call up because he's actually filming it.
We can film from up there.
That works for me. Okay, so I think that means it's probably time to take questions. Go, Frank.
How much money do you need? What's the number?
We can discuss the actual.
No, say the number out loud. Seriously.
For which goal?
Well, you said you need money. Just say a number out loud. Help you, you idiot.
Okay, so to build the boat for World Robotic Sailing Championships, we're probably talking around 10 grand.
Okay.
For a 7-meter boat, probably another order of magnitude.
Wow. Okay, so I'll do some match up to $1,000 for you. So if you can get $1,000, I'll match $1,000. So the people in the room, that's $25 a piece. Maybe.
Come on, give us money. Throw cash at us. Okay.
Frank, where should we forward that receipt to?
Pierce will take care of all that. I just write the check.
Any other questions?
Field design.
So what we have on the solar electric boat right now is a keel bulb attached to the keel bracket, so it isn't quite so deep, so we can actually pick the boat up with keel attached.
How deep?
It's like right on the bottom of the boat.
Oh, okay.
It's enough to keep it upright right now. For the sailboat, I have a fin keel with ballast pole, and you can come see it. It's down with the other boat.
Okay. The thing mentioned of the thin keel is answers my other question. Like, how are you going to sail without a keel? Because if all keel wouldn't do the job.
Yeah, the answer is we're not. Right? But the power boat doesn't need it, so it doesn't have it. Okay, more questions.
Do you sense other marine traffic? And if yes, with what?
You want
The bumper.
Sure, well... Pretty much what? Everything above 300-ton displacement has an AIS transponder, and a lot of things smaller than that do too. For other kind of obstacles, we've got stereo cameras that can take a three-dimensional depth map of what's in front of the boat, and we can determine if there's like something there we're going to hit, or if we need to change our course. But that's all part of the pathfinding and navigation algorithm that keeps changing and evolving as we come up with better ideas.
Go ahead.
Like testing for actual, like, when it's out on the water, like you guys just plan to do test runs, or are you going to try and do a combination of setting up like proper unit tests and like test? Because I guess what I'm wondering is like, you get certain values when you have big things in your place. Are you just saying like this is I should like unit test for that to
For something like this, for something like this, the answer is pretty much yes.
What's the question?
Okay, so the question was, are we doing unit tests? Are we doing field tests? And the answer is yes. Both are a necessary component of actually building it.
Yeah.
Right.
How much time? Do you guys have like a plan for how much time you guys do like actual testing and stuff? Because it's easy to do like a week.
Yeah, water tests are more expensive and difficult. We're working on a more formal plan. What? Okay, any other questions? I probably have time for one more. What was your strategy for weather grouping on your lots and lots of RTV.
Boxes with connectors rather than a single large dry container.
Okay. Thank you, everybody.